In a sun-drenched village, nestled between gentle hills, Jesus gathered his disciples under the shade of a sprawling olive tree. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blossoms, and the sound of laughter echoed from the village square. Yet, among the joy, Jesus sensed a heaviness in the hearts of some of his followers. As they settled on the soft grass, Jesus looked around and noticed Matthew, a thoughtful and introspective disciple, who appeared more withdrawn than usual. "Matthew," Jesus said gently, "what troubles you, my friend?" Matthew hesitated, his eyes darting to the ground. "Rabbi, I often feel overwhelmed when surrounded by others. I struggle to speak, to connect. It feels as if the world is watching me, judging me. I fear their thoughts." The other disciples exchanged concerned glances. Jesus leaned closer, his expression filled with compassion. "Let me share a story that may help you understand this feeling better. Once in a distant land there lived a young man named Eli. He was gifted with a remarkable talent for music. His melodies could move the hearts of all who listened. However, Eli was plagued by fear. He feared performing in front of others, worried that they would judge his music or worse, find it lacking. One day the king of the land announced a grand festival. He invited all the townsfolk to share their talents. Eli's heart raced at the thought of performing, but he was paralyzed by his fear. Instead of stepping forward, he stayed hidden in his home, listening to the laughter and music of others while his own melodies remained silent. As the festival progressed, Eli heard a commotion outside. Curious, he peeked through the window. A little girl was singing a sweet, simple song, her voice pure and unpretentious. The villagers were enchanted, clapping and cheering. Eli felt a pang of longing in his heart. He realized he wanted to share his gift too. But the fear gripped him tightly and he remained silent. Days turned into weeks and the festival faded into memory. Eli continued to hide, his music trapped within him. One night he had a vivid dream. In the dream he stood on a grand stage, the world watching. His heart raced, but as he began to play, the crowd was not filled with judgment. They were smiling, swaying, lost in the beauty of his music. Awakening with a start, Eli felt a stirring in his heart. He realized that his fear had kept him from experiencing the joy that his music could bring, not only to himself but to others. He made a decision that day he would face his fears no matter how daunting. The next festival, Eli stood at the edge of the crowd, his heart pounding. As he watched others perform, he felt the warmth of their joy wash over him. He took a deep breath, gathering his courage, and stepped forward, his guitar in hand. When he began to play, his voice trembled at first, but then he poured his heart into the music. The crowd fell silent, captivated by the beauty of his song. As he played, Eli felt his fear melt away, replaced by a profound connection with those around him. The crowd erupted into applause, not out of judgment, but in celebration of his courage and talent. From that day on, Eli shared his music freely, and in doing so he found freedom from his fears. He realized that by opening his heart to the world, he had unlocked a treasure not just within himself, but within those who listened. As Jesus finished the story, a hush fell over the disciples. Matthew looked up, tears glistening in his eyes. "Rabbi, Eli's story resonates with me deeply. I feel like him, trapped by my own fears." Jesus nodded, his gaze warm and reassuring. Matthew's social anxiety can feel like a heavy burden. It can make the world feel overwhelming, as if every eye is upon you. But remember this, the fear you feel does not define you. Just as Eli discovered his treasure within, so too can you find the courage to share your voice with the world. The other disciples leaned closer, absorbing Jesus' wisdom. To face your fears is to take a step into the light. It is in these moments of vulnerability that you connect most deeply with others. You are not alone. We all carry fears, but together we can lift each other up. Just then a group of village children ran past, laughing and playing. Their joy was infectious. Jesus smiled and said, "Look at those children. They play without fear of judgment. They remind us that connection comes from being authentic and embracing our true selves. Matthew wiped away his tears and managed a small smile. But what if I fail? What if my voice shakes or I say the wrong thing? Jesus placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Every journey begins with a single step. Embrace the imperfections, for they are part of your story. Share your heart and you will find that others resonate with your struggles. In vulnerability lies true strength. Inspired, the disciples discussed their own fears and anxieties. Simon spoke up, "I too feel anxious in large crowds. But hearing this story gives me hope." Jesus encouraged them all. Let us not shy away from our fears. Instead, let us gather together in the village square this evening. We will share our stories, our songs, and our laughter. Together we can create a space of love and acceptance, where we uplift one another. As the sun began to set, the disciples felt a renewed sense of purpose. They decided to invite the villagers to come together as a community, sharing their fears and joys. That evening, the village square buzzed with excitement. Lanterns were hung, casting a warm glow. As villagers gathered, Jesus stood at the forefront, his presence radiating love and encouragement. "Tonight," he began, "we share not only our talents but our hearts. Let us celebrate our uniqueness and the courage it takes to be vulnerable. Each of you has a story that deserves to be heard." One by one, the villagers took turns sharing their experiences. Laughter and tears intertwined as they opened their hearts. Matthew watched as others spoke of their own anxieties, realizing he was not alone. The stories flowed like a river, connecting everyone in a profound way. When it was finally Matthew's turn, his heart raced. He stood before the crowd, fear creeping in. But he remembered Eli's journey. Taking a deep breath, he spoke from the heart. "I often feel anxious in social situations. I worry about being judged. But I want to share my story and connect with all of you." To his surprise, the crowd listened intently, nodding in understanding. As he shared his fears, he felt a wave of support envelop him. When he finished, the crowd erupted in applause, not out of judgment but in recognition of his bravery. The evening continued with music, laughter, and dance. Villagers joined hands, celebrating their shared experiences. In that moment, Matthew felt a profound sense of belonging. The fear that had once consumed him began to dissolve. As the festivities carried on, Jesus looked on, his heart filled with joy. He saw the transformation happening before him, the connection, the healing, the empowerment. "Remember," Jesus said, raising his voice above the merriment, "the treasure of your heart is meant to be shared." In the embrace of community we find strength, courage, and the freedom to be ourselves. As the night drew to a close, Matthew felt lighter than he had in years. The love and acceptance from his community had helped him confront his fears. He realized that vulnerability was not a weakness, it was a bridge to deeper connections. The following days brought new opportunities for Matthew. He began engaging more with villagers, participating in discussions, and even sharing his music. He discovered that by opening up, he could inspire others to share their own stories, creating a ripple effect of courage. One day, as the disciples sat together under the olive tree, Jesus reflected on their journey. "You have all learned something invaluable, that social anxiety is a part of life, but it does not have to define you. Embrace your fears, share your hearts, and uplift one another. In community we find our greatest strength." Matthew smiled, his heart full of gratitude. "Thank you, Rabbi. I now understand that I am not alone in this journey. Together we can face our fears and find joy in connection." As the sun set, casting a golden hue over the village, the disciples knew they had taken a monumental step toward healing. They felt a renewed sense of purpose and connection, embracing the beauty of vulnerability and the strength found in shared experiences. And as the stars began to twinkle above, they rejoiced in the knowledge that love and acceptance would always light their way, guiding them through any darkness they might face. Weeks later, inspired by their previous gathering, Matthew suggested a regular meeting, a healing circle where villagers could share their stories, talents and support one another. "Let's call it the Circle of Courage," he proposed one evening. The idea was met with enthusiasm. Villagers eagerly volunteered to help organize the first meeting. They spread the word, inviting everyone to come regardless of their fears. The anticipation grew, and soon the entire village was buzzing with excitement. When the day of the first Circle of Courage arrived, the village square was transformed. Colorful banners adorned the trees, and tables were filled with homemade treats. As evening approached, the community gathered, their faces filled with hope. Jesus opened the gathering, welcoming everyone with warmth. "This circle is a safe space," he said. "Here we honor each other's voices. There are no judgments, only love and support. Let us share our fears and our joys, knowing that we are all connected." As the circle began, one by one villagers stood up to share their stories. A farmer spoke of his anxiety during harvest time, worried that his crops would fail. A mother shared her fears of raising children in a challenging world. Each voice was met with empathy as the community rallied around them. When it was Matthew's turn, he felt the familiar flutter of anxiety. But as he looked around at the supportive faces, he took a deep breath. "I once felt alone in my struggles," he began, "but this circle has shown me that we all face fears. Together we can confront them." The crowd erupted in applause, their appreciation palpable. Matthew felt a surge of confidence as he continued to share his journey. As the evenings passed, the Circle of Courage became a cherished tradition. New friendships blossomed, and villagers formed deep connections, often sharing meals and laughter beyond the gatherings. The stories shared became threads that wove the community closer together. One evening, a young woman named Sarah, who had recently moved to the village, bravely stood to share her story. "I've struggled with feeling like an outsider," she confessed, her voice trembling. "But this circle has made me feel welcomed. Thank you for letting me be part of this." Her vulnerability resonated deeply, and the villagers erupted in cheers, embracing her as one of their own. They learned that the circle was not just about sharing fears. It was also about celebrating victories no matter how small. As time went on, the villagers discovered the power of their stories. They began to take small steps toward confronting their fears. Some signed up for classes, others joined clubs, and a few even organized community events to showcase their talents. Matthew found himself more involved in village life than ever before. He began to play music at local gatherings, sharing his songs with joy. Each performance built his confidence, and he learned to embrace the imperfections of his craft. Jesus watched with pride as the village transformed. The connections among the villagers grew deeper, and the stigma of anxiety began to fade away. They learned to lean on one another, drawing strength from their collective experiences. One clear night, the villagers gathered under the stars, lying on blankets and sharing their dreams. Jesus joined them, his presence like a soothing balm. "Look at the stars," he said, gesturing to the vast sky. "Each one shines brightly just like each of you. In unity, we create a constellation of hope and courage." Matthew looked around at his friends, feeling a warmth in his heart. He realized that the Circle of Courage had become more than just a meeting. It had become a lifeline for many, a reminder that they were never alone in their struggles. As the seasons changed, the village faced a new challenge. A severe drought threatened their crops, leaving many anxious about the future. The community gathered at the Circle of Courage to share their fears and ideas. Jesus encouraged them, "In times of adversity, we must come together even more. Let us brainstorm ways to support one another. How can we nurture our community during this time?" Inspired, the villagers began to share ideas. Some proposed a communal garden where they could grow food together, while others suggested ways to conserve water. The discussions were filled with hope and creativity, showcasing the resilience that had blossomed within them. Over the next few months, the villagers worked tirelessly on their communal garden. They dug, planted, and tended to the crops together, fostering not only growth in the soil but also in their relationships. The garden became a symbol of their unity and determination. As they harvested their first vegetables, joy erupted in the village square. Laughter filled the air as they shared a feast, celebrating their hard work and the strength of their community. Matthew stood up, his heart swelling with pride. This garden represents more than just food. It's a testament to our resilience. We have faced our fears, supported one another, and created something beautiful. As the seasons continued to change, the circle of courage thrived, evolving into a cornerstone of village life. New villagers joined, eager to share their stories and learn from those who had come before them. Jesus often reminded them, "Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the willingness to confront it." Each time you share your heart, you inspire others to do the same. Years passed and the village grew, but the spirit of the circle remained strong. Matthew became a mentor for others, guiding those struggling with social anxiety. He shared Eli's story with newcomers, offering hope and encouragement. One evening, as the village prepared for the annual festival, Jesus gathered everyone in the square. "Tonight, we celebrate not only the festival but the journey we've taken together. Each of you has shown incredible courage, and your stories have woven a tapestry of hope." As the sun set, the villagers lit lanterns illuminating the square. They danced, sang, and shared their talents, reveling in the beauty of connection. The laughter echoed through the hills, a joyful reminder of the transformation that had taken place. Matthew looked around, tears of gratitude in his eyes. "Thank you, everyone, for being part of my journey. Together, we have built a community filled with love, understanding, and courage." As the night drew to a close, the villagers gathered in a circle, hand in hand. Jesus smiled at them, his heart full. "You have created a legacy of courage that will continue for generations. Remember, you are never alone. The light of your hearts will guide you through any darkness." And so, as they stood together under the starry sky, the villagers felt a profound sense of belonging. They knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united in their courage, their love, and their unwavering support for one another. The story of their journey became a beacon of hope, inspiring others to embrace their fears and find strength in community. In the heart of the village, the circle of courage continued to thrive, nurturing the bonds that connected them all, reminding everyone that together, they could overcome any obstacle and celebrate the beauty of life. This is end of the story. Please like this video and subscribe this channel for more Jesus story like this. May the God watch over you.